Hey guys, it's Luke here from LT Gaming, and I'm back with another Should You Buy, and today I'm looking at SGS Taipings. This is the latest offering from Avalon Digital and Strategy Game Studio, and it recreates the Taiping Rebellion from 1851 to 1864. And yeah, I had never heard of this rebellion either, but it is in fact the deadliest Chinese civil war, and it cost the lives of millions. It took place also during the time of other conflicts like the Second Opium War, and believe it or not, I had heard of that conflict where the British and French took on the Chinese Empire at the time, but I did not realise that China was actually undergoing a massive civil war which tied into that war. It's insane, and I didn't know that, right? The Taiping rebels and their allies desperately fighted to create their own state and caught the Emperor by surprise. And to be honest, there's a great mechanic in the game where as the game goes on and you take more territory, the Emperor starts to take notice and dedicate more resources to the rebellion. But anyway, it was released on the 19th of January 2023, currently has a very positive rating on Steam, and I would say is the most ambitious title in the SGS series so far. But before we start, as always, make sure to drop the video a like to show your support for the channel and what we do here. Leave a comment on the SGS series, war games, or anything you like below, and if you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on. You're very welcome here, and me and Tom appreciate all of your support. So SGS Taipings is one of the most ambitious games in the series. The grand campaign is set to run for a total of 165 turns. To put that in perspective, in SGS Montezuma, the longest campaign is around 45 turns. So it is quite ambitious, this game, and you will have to jump in and learn the mechanics, or I would suggest pick up a slightly smaller in scope title like Africa Core or Montezuma and then move on to this one. It is quite overwhelming at start, but I did throw myself into it and found that the systems within SGS are so intuitive that I was able to teach myself most of the mechanics within a few hours. Now I've currently played 10 hours of the game. I'm absolutely engrossed in a 165 turn grand campaign. I don't really know how it's going to play out yet, but I know I'm having a huge amount of fun and I'm around 25 turns in. But do bear in mind, other SGS titles like Korea have short campaigns, some of them only 4 turns, whereas the minimum campaign you can play in Taipings is 35 turns, and that's the end of the Taipings. Not exactly a great place to jump in to learn. So this one is definitely very large in scope, and you probably should have some experience before you jump in, but that isn't required. So Taipings is one of the most ambitious games in the series, but with that you get an absolute mountain of content and a grand campaign that is recommended to last around 60 or 70 hours. You can of course play either as the Taipings or as the Qing dynasty, and there are European powers that will get involved as you play. So the game is very fresh. It also introduces a lot of unique mechanics to the game around the diplomacy system, which while a little bit hard to understand, doesn't take away from the otherwise very easy to learn system and beautiful UI of the SGS series. I also think it's important to point out that the game can be played against the AI or in play by email mode against a human opponent. This adds a really cool dimension and another level of challenge. So let's have a discussion about what really matters in these types of wargames, and that is the gameplay. I find the SGS engine a real joy to use and very intuitive to learn, and that's the same with all of the SGS series. In Taipings in particular, I enjoyed the battles and learning about the unique Asian units involved in the war at the time. There is also a vast amount of cards within this game, and I know they are adding more in updates. So that is definitely a big positive. The battles are presented with dice and cards, and I know that some wargamers don't like this, but in essence this is just putting the mechanics right in your face. A lot of other wargames do this, but just don't show you the calculations. For me, with a little bit of an OCD personality, I absolutely love watching the battles and seeing how the dice rolls play out and how I can influence those battles. There is definitely a degree of flexibility in how situations can play out, and this is a lot of fun. Now generally the gameplay drives you in a direction that was historically supposed to happen. You do get lots of units given to you as the Taipings as the rebellion grows. But I found early on in my campaign, I was stressing out whether was I growing quick enough in the rebellion or was I becoming overstretched? And it's that fine balance in the gameplay that really provides the excitement within Taipings. So you're constantly fighting against the mechanic that the Qing Emperor is actually going to notice the rebellion and come down on it a lot harder. And as you go through the gears, you will notice that the Qing Emperor gets more and more involved in the war. And it's a really fun mechanic that you fight against. One of the other cool mechanics I found in the game was the European intervention, and that comes about through the a little bit confusing diplomacy system, which is really a little bit too abstract and would be one thing I'd level at the game. It doesn't do diplomacy particularly well, but it does serve as a way to get the European powers involved. The only thing I'd say here is I feel like some of the British and French units are a little bit underpowered. I know in the real battles, 10,000 elite Mongol cavalry were routed by a very small British force, and I think that this could be portrayed better within the game, but I do understand that it has to be balanced. Overall, there does seem to be a good balance system in the game that I've played for 10 hours. I am facing some setbacks, as well as some successes on certain fronts, and this constant change in dynamic makes the game a lot of fun. So let's talk about the presentation of SGS Taipings. I find the map to be absolutely beautifully presented, and China is represented in a really cool and intuitive manner. So I can click certain buttons and I can look at what provinces I control. I can also easily see the weather on the map and the type of terrain that my units are going to fight in. Of course, this does hark back to the old Ageode games, except it runs exceptionally smooth, and part of the appeal of the SGS games is they run buttery smooth. I can move my units, rotate the map, and I have no slowdown, and the performance has been good. On my PC, the performance has been absolutely excellent, and I have played SGS Taipings on the Steam Deck. It does slow down on certain phases where you draw cards, but is perfectly playable in the land movement phase and naval movement phases. The game looks stunning, it's colourful, I really enjoy the aesthetic, and I think it certainly does justice to the era that it's trying to portray. Moving on to sound and music, I can honestly say that the soundtrack to this game is one of my favourite that I've ever played. There are loud, raucous war tunes and also some beautifully peaceful moments that really represent the Asian battlefield that I am playing on. I have truly enjoyed the music in this game, and there are a couple of tracks I would listen to outside of the game quite happily. I know I've said this before and people have come back at me about this, but I do not understand the mentality of turning off music within games. It's like a movie, the music is part of the experience, and in this game it really brings you into the moment, and I find it extremely relaxing to play with some of these tunes going on in the background, so well done to SGS on that front. I do, however, enjoy the ambient battle noises. I certainly know that I'm in a battle when I'm in one, and they do their job well. So the question is, should you buy SGS Taipings? And despite the fact that the game is very wide in its scope and ambition, and also some of the units could do with a little bit of rebalancing, the game is an absolute must-buy for the history buff or the avid wargamer. I understand that dice and cards are not for everybody, but I have enjoyed having the mechanics put right in front of me so that I understand what is going on, rather than sort of a hidden RNG which I've seen in other wargames. This is much appreciated and I've enjoyed the mechanics. As for pricing, the game retails at €24.99 or your regional equivalent. The value proposition, given the quality of the title and the amount of content available, is exceptional. So yes, if you are a wargamer, go out and try SGS Taipings today. If you're not ready for the scope, jump into one of their other games, and I have a couple of reviews coming up. I'm looking at SGS Korea and also a few of the other titles. I have a video on Montezuma, which I'll link below, which is also a great starting point in the series. But all I can say is Avalon Digital, strategy game studio, you've done an excellent job of portraying an area of history that we should all be learning about. Great job, and I really look forward to what comes next from your studio. As always guys, make sure to like, comment and subscribe. I've been Luke from LT Gaming, and I'll catch you on the next one.